Alright, so just a short video to review vector brushes in Animate. So vector brushes work with a stroke, not with a fill. So if you're planning on using one of these shape tools, it's not going to work out as well. Also, brush tool is not going to work. So you can either use pencil, line, or the pen tool. We're going to use the pencil tool for now. And I'm going to just grab a color that's visible and just paint a couple different things here. So the way this works is you draw out the shape first, and then you can actually change what makes up this stroke. And we've seen before that we can kind of change a little bit of the styles to, something like that. But this is actually going to be much, much larger of a change. Some of these are very artistic, like dry charcoal brushes, and then some of them are very, very graphic. But either way, you select something that is a stroke. And then you go over here to your properties panel and you can see you can change the size of it, you can change the style, but there's 3 buttons right here. And the last one, this is brush library. We open that up, we tell that to go away, and we get a brush library panel, which I think you can also get, through the Windows panel, or the Windows menu. Alright, so we get our brush library up. And there's 6 different sections. We're going to go with artistic first because this is the one that's going to kind of seem the most like something you've seen before. And there's 4 different subsets, but they're all, if I double click one, art brushes, right? They're labeled things like charcoal pencil, charcoal rough, charcoal feathered. They're basically meant to give a distinct look to whatever it is you're drawing. So you can't get different opacities, right? Like it has to be basically it looks like it's there or it's not. Whoops, it's got to be selected. There we go. But you can give sort of the illusion of things getting lighter and darker because there's more or less, like pen hitting the paper, right? And it tapers off at the end. So if I grab the pencil tool, it may or may not work. Yeah, no, I have to add it afterwards. So if you have something shorter, right, you can see it tapers at the beginning, tapers at the end. So you can get something that's a little more artistic looking. There's a lot of different types here. You can see these actually don't have colors to them, some of them. There we go. Some of them are black and white by design. Others do allow for color. So it's a way to get a tapered look even though you don't have a tablet. And so you just kind of go through and you just see which ones you might want to use, and different ones have different uses. All right, so that's what the sort of artistic ones look like. So we're going to leave those over here for a minute. Actually, I'm going to do something different for these. Some of the other ones, if we just look at them, there's an entire section called arrows. They are literally just arrows. So if I grab the line tool, and if I hold down shift while I'm drawing it, well, you can see it's drawing like whatever charcoal brush I had in the first place. But if I go to these arrow ones, we get that. And you can see again, some of them, I can make them look thicker, by the way, by changing the stroke width. Look at that. Some of them are taking the color from here. Others, because they are multicolored, we can't change them. Yeah, we can change it later, but right now you're stuck with the black and white. Right? So what these allow for is kind of adding pre-built graphics into the program. So if you're thinking to yourself, it'd be nice if I had an arrow, and you're a little unsure of your drawing abilities, then you can start off with one of these arrows and move on from there. The same goes for if I grab another line here. Under decorative, they've got all these banners, which can then be moved to an extent. If you squash them too much, they get a little weird. But you can see the more complicated that we get, the more it is obvious that it kind of came from a program. These text dividers, a couple of them Oh, that's, no, no, no. I mean, that's kind of a general pattern. This one's pretty simple. But some of these are like, you didn't design that, right? They're very, 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 very specific. And if you're quickly trying to mock up something, they're good for that. But if you're trying to design something of your own, you use with caution. All right. But there's a lot of, ooh, some more pattern brushes. These are actually great for, you can use the shape tool, but you have to take out the fill because we don't want that in there. And then, oh, whoops. Well, it keeps using whatever the previous one I had on was. There we go. So you get these decorative borders, right? So we've got borders, we've got more expressive lines than say was in the style menu. And I just double click these to go through them. So you should just kind of go looking around. Again, they can get though kind of I don't know, kitschy, very Photoshop symbol-y. They're just, they can get very eh, very meh. So, but there are uses for them. And the next video will actually go over what the in-class assignment was and looking at the book and making things with them. All right. So these vector brushes, we can use them to get artistic looking brush strokes, or we could use them to have basically more graphic things. Now, if you wanted to alter this later, any one of these things later, right now these are all procedural, completely procedural. So there's a stroke, which means there's a curve, right? The curve, point A, point B, two anchor points, there's a curve going between them. And then the stroke is being procedurally generated around it, so I can't alter it right now. But what I can do is go over to these buttons, remember these buttons, and I can say expand to fill. And if I do that, you can see now my anchor points and my curve are surrounding the shape. And now I can make changes if I need to. Whatever it is that I'm trying to do, right? So I can, maybe I want to, let's see. Select those two things. Oh, no, it won't let me do it to both of them. There we go. Make it a little zippier. So I can make those changes after the fact. The same goes with even these more complex ones, but now you're dealing with some pretty complex stuff, right? This is a compound shape with lots of different sections to it. The easiest thing to do would be to change the color. So if you wanted the banner to be red, you, whoops, there we go. You could make the banner red, and then we can, let's see, grab another color, slightly darker color, that part of the banner. There we go. So we can change the colors afterwards. Changing the shape is going to take some drawing skills. You're going to have to know how to manipulate all these anchor points, perhaps delete a few and make something simpler. It gets even more harder when we look at this one. Again, we can take it, we can say expand to fill, and now it's just a bunch of shapes. But it's going to take some time going through here. You know, I can individually change certain pieces, the color, but anything else is going to take some time. So consider that when you're considering using these things, right? And remember also that once you expand to fill, that's it. I can't change the stroke size to make this a little bit wider. I can't make those easy procedural changes, and also that can happen. So be aware that all of those crazy rules will now apply if you say expand to fill. All right, but that is vector brushes. They're just a neat little corner of this program, but they can be used for a lot of different things. Oh, one last thing. Know that if I go to this one here, we can open up our brushes panel again just by going to that. And if I go to borders and something like this, There are options for how these things draw. Just be aware that they can be a little bit finicky. If you go to this little pencil right here, there's a go away. Well, I can't make it go away. Um, there's all sorts of options for how it's stretched out and how it follows the path, things like that. So if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details, you can kind of take a look at this. We can flip the direction of it if we want. Um, just be aware that because this is procedural, you can't just simply move things around easily. So you kind of have to just work within these. There we go. I flipped it around, but I can't. There's not a lot I can do about how it minds the corner, and just also keep in mind that if it's not drawn properly, it can start to warp. So these things do have their limitations, but they are a good starting point.